Well, hey guys, welcome to the studio. You know the routine. Come on in, make yourself comfortable. And in this video, I'd like to talk about something that I heard in another video. And of course, there's a lot of other people on YouTube that talking about home recording and recording that sort of thing, and most of them are very good. But I heard something that from a guy who I really like to watch his videos, and he mentioned something about how to make your mixes stand apart. And I really think that there was some good ideas in it. But he said something, and his whole premise in the video kind of surprised me a little bit, and I was kind of really taken aback by what he said, and I was almost a little shocked because I really respect what this guy has to say. And the main premise of it was to go ahead and use some reference tracks to go ahead to compare your mix to. And I think that's a great thing to do. And basically, he was just using a rough mix. But then a video went on to say or demonstrate about altering the entire mix. He was EQing the entire mix to go ahead to make it sound like a commercial mix. And I thought that that's where things got a little askew and something that I wouldn't necessarily recommend. Like I say, this video is not to discredit this other person. In fact, I highly recommend. You may or may not know who I'm talking about, but I highly recommend these videos, and you can find who I'm talking about, I'm sure. But this guy does great stuff. His music sounds great. He's got a great cause and everything. But I don't want to ramble on about that. I just want to let you know I'm not trying to discredit this person, but what I suggest is rather than trying to EQ an entire mix, I want to kind of base this video on making sure that you get things right at every stage of the game. Meaning that when you record something, don't think that, no, okay, now I've got it recorded, I can go ahead and I've got my raw tracks, I can go ahead and doctor up my tracks, which you can easily do nowadays with the cut and paste or the auto tune or the Melodyne or whatever you need to do. And then once you maybe have a bad sound or something like that, then you rely on reamping and techniques like that, which again are not to be dismissed. But when you start to rely on these things, in other words, I'm just going to go ahead and say get a guitar part in clean, and I'm going to worry about getting a sound later. I'm just going to go ahead and fix it in the mix, so to speak. I think that's a wrong angle or attitude to take when you're really trying to get something of a really polished caliber. So let's back up and start right off the bat. When you're recording into your mic or doing a vocal take or doing guitar tracks or whatever instrument you might be recording, make sure that it's recorded the best that it possibly can. Don't rely on, well, I can go ahead and fix it a little bit later. I can fix my timing errors. I can fix it with AutoSnap or Beat Detective or whatever you might use. Get it right off at the beginning. Start out with great tracks. And I say that because great tracks make it so much easier to do a great mix. I think you'll notice that the better musicians that you have that come into your studio, that they're so much easier to record because they know how to get the great sounds out of their instruments. They play great, and so when it comes down to mixing, sometimes it almost just mixes itself. You just set the faders or whatever you do just straight across the board, and it just mixes itself. So again, start out with those great tracks. Now when you're going ahead and mixing, go ahead and get things fixed here, and don't rely on the mastering engineer if you're going to get your final takes mastered. Get your mix down right, and don't rely on something to go ahead and give you fullness or EQ. A good chest thumping drum sound or whatever you're looking for or seem to be lacking. And if you're having a problem with your mix, then go back to your tracks. And I'm not suggesting re-record them, but that's where you might alter your tracks a little bit. Now again, I might be sounding confusing because I said to record those tracks the best you can right off the bat. But start out with your tracks and then go back and then rather than altering your entire mix, go ahead and make sure that your tracks are what you want them to be before you start mixing. So if your mix is sounding thin, go back to your individual tracks and figure out what is it in your tracks that's making your mix sound thin. Don't get into your home mastering thing to try to fix your mix, because I think you're really trying to jump the gun. Now, typically then, a lot of people might do their own home mastering, and that's another subject, whether it's really good to do that over the same speakers or in the same environment or even the same set of ears to do the mastering. But generally, the mastering should just be the final icing, and ideally, when you're mastering, the mastering engineer should have to do nothing. If anything, he might just be altering the space between songs or whatever if you're compiling a CD. So don't rely on the mastering engineer to fix your mix. So you can see the sequence that I'm sort of talking about. And getting back to that original video that I was talking about that this other person did, I thought they were trying to fix their mix in the mixing stage, and they weren't really getting to the point where they were doing their homebrew mastering. And so I felt that rather than trying to throw an EQ curve across the entire mix, and some of it was actually pretty drastic, go back to your individual tracks and fix the tracks individually. So get it right in the tracks, get it right in the mixing, and then the mastering will be a piece of cake and your stuff is going to sound great. Hopefully that was is better than as clear as mud, but you know how that goes. And I appreciate you sticking around watching the video. Remember to subscribe. I really appreciate that. And again, thanks for all the comments. And of course, we'll catch you in the next video. See you later, guys.